Hey guys, my name is Nicolette Mashile, and today I want to talk a little bit about the Standard Bank Escrow account. Now remember that none of my videos constitute as financial advice. If you are looking for financial advice, please speak to somebody who is certified and registered with the FSCA. And in this regard, you can definitely speak to Standard Bank themselves. So I want to tell you guys a bit of a story. Today marks, I think, 2 years since I started building or designing and developing my Save or Spend board game. It's basically a financial literacy game that teaches you financial literacy concepts, but also gives you a better explanation of how to use compound interest so that you can delay some sort of instant gratification from taking on the benefits of your money before you actually really need it. So it's got compound interest in action. That's why it's called Save or Spend, right? So one of the things that delayed me in terms of my board game was the fact that I couldn't in South Africa find custom-made dices, right? Or die, it's called a die actually. I couldn't make a custom-made die. So mine needed to have all the different colors on each face of the dice, right? And I really struggled, and eventually I got a manufacturer who was in China to be able to make this for me. So I contacted them and I said, listen, this is what I'd like to make. Can I get this in bulk? Can you guys make it? But before I actually order it in bulk, I'd like to see if it comes out the way I want it. So the process was really simple. They designed it, they sent it to me, and they then only said to me, hey, listen, we won't be able to only manufacture one of these, so we need to we can only sell it to you at an amount of 10,000 Rand of the units, to 10,000 units. And I was like, sheesh, what am I going to do with 10,000 units? Now, obviously at that time I was like, yo, my game is not going to sell that quickly. And I'm still hoping that it will sell, right? I was a bit worried. And when I looked at the cost that I was going to end up paying, I was a little panicky. But I think for me, more than just being panicky about the investment that I was making, because I really truly believe in the game, it was the payment which they wanted upfront. And over and above it being an upfront payment, I wasn't sure whether they were going to deliver the product that I really wanted. And I had asked them to please send me samples, and they kind of had a difficulty in trying to send me those samples. So I was a bit worried and about the big risk that I was going to be taking, you know. I wasn't really worried about the actual delivery of product, but I was worried about the delivery of the correct product, because remember, more than just it being a language barrier that exists there, sometimes it's really on my side also the lack of me being able to explain correctly what it is that I wanted. Although I did send them some pictures, so a gentleman from Rhodes University kind of molded the dice for me and I was able to show them, but I also wanted the correct yellow, the correct blue, the correct green, and the correct red, and then also the correct gold and black that I wanted on the dice. So I think if you look at all my reasons, one of probably the most biggest issues that I had was the risk that I was going to be taking by paying such a huge amount of money over to them and not knowing what is actually going to be delivered, but also the fees that were going to be associated. Now we know that South Africa's exchange rate, or the exchange rate between South Africa and China, also does fluctuate, and at that time they were costing me using the dollar currency, right? So already there was a fluctuation between South African Rand and the dollar. So then I found out about Standard Bank's Escrow account, and I was quite excited, because what happens basically is that you will have a sales agreement between the parties, the buyer and the seller, right? And then you will go to Standard Bank and they will create an escrow agreement between yourself and the bank and the actual seller that you are engaging. And they will then make sure they get all the right documents from both parties. And then once they've got those documents, they'll put it in, kind of hold it in custody. And then what I would then do as the buyer, I would pay over that amount to Standard Bank into my escrow account, and they will keep that money in custody for me up until the seller has actually delivered the goods as per spec and as per what they've actually promised me and what my requirements were. And once that has been delivered, then their payment will be released. Now, I think that's really great, because one, it's not a credit line per se, so you're not going to be charged interest. It's actually an account that you yourself open, and what it does is that it mitigates the risk of you putting your money into something and you're not sure. And I was just thinking, it actually would be very helpful to use this type of an account between agency or landlord and a tenant, because how many of us have, let's be honest, how many of us have been scammed where a landlord or an estate agent that is dodgy says to you, deposit your deposit money into this bank account, and when you deposit it, they disappear, and all of a sudden when you go to the house, the real owners tell you they know nothing about what you're talking about. So I think it would be great. So once your keys are handed to you, then only will the escrow account then release the funds to the real estate agent or to the landlord. I think that would really be great. I don't know, what do you think? Mwah.